Forget the munchies. Diet weed is here, legally for sale at the dispensaries. I'm Catherine Goldberg, and I'm going to explain. We know that weed and munchies go hand in hand. And one of the best parts of cannabis is the fact that it stimulates appetite for many individuals who have trouble eating. But I'd like to explore the other side of that. And that other side is a minor cannabinoid called THCV that's becoming more and more popular. It's very hard to find in dispensaries in the form of flower, like cannabis flower that you smoke, but I've been seeing it more and more in edible form. So unlike THC, which stimulates your like hunger hormone response biologically, and that's why you get the munchies, THCV actually blocks that response. It never even starts it. So many people use cannabis that's high in THCV to lose weight. Many members of the senior savvy community have written in about their experience with this. I can link to some of their stories if you're interested. But honestly, I didn't really believe it, to be honest. I thought it was kind of like a marketing trend. Until I tried it, and oh my God, you cannot eat on THCV. I did not like it. I will not be taking it again. I'm going to give it to a friend. But it absolutely suppresses, is too light of a word, blunts appetite. I was pretty shocked because the scientific literature said THCV worked, but like I had to experience it for myself. So I think the topic, by the way, around weight management and cannabis is super fascinating because, as we know, cannabis reduces inflammation, and inflammation is the root of like all dis-ease. So when you preventatively use cannabis, I feel like you're kind of setting yourself up for better health. I don't think that's an outrageous statement, to be perfectly honest. And there was that study that came out last year that said that adults who use cannabis have a lower, generally speaking, body mass index than those who don't. And of course, correlation does not equal causation, but it doesn't seem like a huge stretch that individuals who are feeling better, who are managing chronic pain, would then be able to move more and hence not live a total like sitting lifestyle where the chances of being overweight are increased. I don't think it's because people smoke weed, they're skinny. That's not what I'm saying in the slightest. But I think people who use cannabis put their body in such a position so that it can work the very best it can. And one of the results of that is just proper metabolism. So that's the first place to start. The second place is that, as we have discussed, that when you're talking about the effect of cannabis, how it's going to make you feel, besides personal biology, it's going to come down to a couple things. Minor cannabinoids are going to play a role, and terpenes are going to play a role. And you're going to look for both of these to figure out the effect that you want. So along with THCV, that's the minor cannabinoid, there's a terpene called humulene that is often found in strains that suppress appetite. Humulene strains are actually a bit easier to find than THCV products, in my experience, from shopping legally at the dispensaries. And humulene, like some other terpenes, like beta-caryophyllene, is neither sedative nor energizing, but it goes along with the other terpenes to increase their effect, right? The entourage effect. So the idea that one could lose a great deal of weight by using cannabis is not a crazy idea. We've seen it happen. I hope that, as we have discussed in other like realms, that maybe if you're trying to focus, you can use cannabis instead of Adderall. It may work for you, it may not. But in a similar vein, perhaps before you try Ozempic, you could try a THCV product. We're going to have a fabulous local grower who's like the heart of California on in a couple weeks, and he makes a THCV olive oil that you put, I guess you could put it on anything, but you put it in your mouth. And I know people are having great success with that. I'm not sure where that can be legally purchased, but I will ask and find out. And just in case anyone's like, you're crazy, all stoners get the munchies, I'm just going to highlight a couple peer-reviewed studies about THCV specifically that I think are really interesting. In 2013, in nutrition and diabetes, there was a study done with humans where they had THCV only, no THC or CBD. It was an isolate. And the people who had the THCV, not the placebo, their food intake was reduced and their energy metabolism was increased. There's another study regarding diabetes, and someone actually commented and said THCV is really good for diabetics. And I was curious about that. And in diabetes care, they saw that THCV in mice improved insulin sensitivity and glucose tolerance. So the fact that this plant can be broken down and its parts can be used, I think is amazing. If you are curious about using cannabis for weight loss and you go to the dispensary and like there are no options because it's not like that crazy, I think your best bet is to find seeds from a reputable seed bank that maybe is like Doug's Varin. That's a specific THCV and humulene strain. Maybe Durban Poison if you can tolerate that kind of energy. But if you can look for THCV and humulene, and maybe you can reach out to someone and have them grow it for you if you're unable to grow it yourself, I think that's going to be the best bet. But to be perfectly honest, in terms of like cannabis trends, especially with like more women shopping in the dispensaries, I think we're going to start to see these like diet weed products, like super targeted, super focused. And, this is a good thing. I think any plant that helps one's body function the very best it can is worth exploring. And I hope that you'll even talk to your doctor about using cannabis as an aid to weight loss. Because I think as these conversations become more and more normalized, we'll just have better results. And I'll just end on one point about smart munchies. Because yes, we have all been there where like you have smoked, you're raiding the fridge, things that don't seem to go together. It's beautiful. How do you stay in control of your munchies when you want to be smart about it? My number one tip is to have pre-cut up fruit ready to go in the fridge, because there is nothing better than like a juicy pineapple after you've smoked. I mean, any kind of fruit, you're like, oh my God, this is amazing. Have healthy options that are good, that you're going to be excited about, ready to go in the house. So instead of grabbing, for processed sugar, for a processed snack, you go for a snack that's a whole food. That is still going to be satisfying. So if you'd like to share how you keep your munchies intact and track, and how what snacks you have around the house that work for you, or if you have any experience using cannabis to aid in your weight loss journey, I would love to hear it. And yeah, I hope this is an interesting topic for everyone, and I'd like to explore it more. So thanks for listening, and I'll see you next week.